I'm going to record the daily financial news for Friday, May 12th. We need to talk about the top 5 markets where you can find remote work. We should talk about Phoenix and why it is such an interesting market to look at. And then, of course, we should talk about foreclosures because undoubtedly we will be seeing foreclosures explode. For example, we have seen foreclosures and short sales explode in Sacramento, California, by the tune of 400%. So let's get into that. Let's get into the numbers. So first and foremost, shout out to Ryan Lundquist, Sacramento Appraiser, a wonderful follow on Twitter. He put out some metrics on Sacramento, California here on Friday, at least that's when I read them, talking about all the transactions. And right at the end of his chart, he talked about foreclosures and short sales going from 4, yes, folks, 4 to 16. Now, if you were a housing bear, you would likely be talking about foreclosures up 400%. You'd be creating scary headlines and all of those things. What we are simply seeing is the restarting of the foreclosure and short sale process, right? It was caught up in forbearance and things of that nature for a long time. This is not a return to the Great Recession. This is not the restart of, a large foreclosure wave. But yes, we are undoubtedly, without question, going to see triple-digit rises in foreclosures. It will be very interesting to see if there is a specific market where foreclosures are kind of an outlier. What I mean by that is maybe there is a market. I'm just going to, I'll pick on Boise, maybe Reno, maybe, Tulsa. I don't know, just some market somewhere where maybe the foreclosure starts are up 1,000%. And maybe that will be a market will have its own uniqueness. But on a national scale, we are certainly not looking to a return to the mass foreclosures we saw before. But that doesn't mean we won't see lots and lots of scary headlines about increases in foreclosures. Lance Lambert, again, a wonderful follow and Thursday guest on this channel with his own playlist. We have seen the impact of 500 basis point increase in the Fed. We have seen Jerome Powell's statement come into fruition just unexpectedly, or at least by many, not by this channel, because you and I were here first, which I love. Basically, what happened first is a significant transaction decline. We have also seen core housing, right, the housing component of GDP, fall or be negative for 4 quarters. We have seen year-on-year home prices go from roughly 21% increases to 2%. And then finally, we have seen rent growth roll over. Remember that Jackson Hole speech, or maybe it was a Q&A. I think it was actually a Q&A after one of the early 75 basis point rate increases, where Jerome Powell said something like, we need housing to get in better balance. What most people heard, because that's what they wanted to hear, was prices were going to fall. And you can go back out and check our videos because we do have receipts on this channel. And we told you that no, what would happen is a transaction crash. And then from there, you and I could start talking about prices. And obviously, prices have not fallen on a national scale. Read an article about commercial real estate actually in Europe. I've actually been reading lots of articles about New York and San Francisco and Texas, but to read an article about Europe and see very much the same thing really makes me think that this is going to be a worldwide issue. Commercial real estate in European countries is expected to fall 40% or could fall 40%, and that is according to Citigroup. Jamie Dimon, I saw a very interesting article with Jamie Dimon talking about the panic over the U.S. debt market. Could be growing and ultimately cause a problem a la 2011. Remember that 2011 ended in an agreement, but also ended in an S&P downgrade, which is really something we need to avoid, because getting a debt agreement, but seeing an S&P debt increase or frankly a debt decrease rating in anyone would be a problem. Jamie Dimon was given some statistics that he thought if a default occurred, We could see GDP down 4%, 7 million unemployed. This was actually Moody's Analytics. I apologize. This is Moody's Analytics. GDP down 4%, 7 million unemployed. Mortgage rates shoot to 8.4%. Pretty scary stuff. The SLOOS report, again, remember we talked about that last Monday. It's not a report I look at a lot, but what we are seeing is tighter lending standards, which will lead to more bankruptcies. Alina Botros, again, a Fortune writer, she talks about the 8.4% rate, transaction crash, and a deep freeze in the housing market. That was on a Fortune article from Friday. I do think it is interesting that JP Morgan has a war room set up for U.S. default. It's meeting weekly, will be 3 times a week, and then meeting daily as we get closer. So pretty interesting. Hotel occupancy is up 2%. That is, kind of in the face of Airbnb with all their extra fees and whatnot. I did think it was interesting that hotel occupancy was up. Let's talk about Phoenix. Phoenix is an interesting market. It was obviously distorted on the run-up. Remember, we talked to John Wake in Phoenix as we were kind of rising the wall of inventory. Remember, I made a bet with John Wake that inventory would be down at the end of the year, and he said no. We won the dollar bet, just in case anybody was curious about that. We did win that bet. So again, Phoenix is interesting because it was so distorted, and we talked about it. Remember, I have friends who would laugh, chuckle at the iBuyers and the prices they were paying. I had whole teams that their whole job was to feed these voracious appetites. That tells you that they really pushed the prices higher. Ooh, I'm going to sneeze. Then as iBuyers pulled back, that is obviously going to distort to the downside because they were not really price sensitive. They wanted out and they were taking losses. That run up and run down is now mostly over. You are seeing inventory fall, and near as I can tell, not a Phoenix expert by any stretch, inventory is still falling. Unlike Austin, Texas. Austin, Texas is a very interesting dichotomy in comparison to Phoenix. Spring values in Phoenix, Arizona are actually up, which, again, all the housing bears would be shocked and probably would never admit they were wrong. But the real question is what happens in the second half? Will prices flatten? Will they roll over? Will they continue up? I think that is a very interesting question. Let's close out with the top 5 cities where you can find remote work. And these are actually worldwide. We'll start at number 5, Chicago. Number 4, Glasgow. Number 3, London. Number 2, San Francisco. And number 1, Washington, D.C. I do think it's interesting, the 3 U.S. markets, Chicago, San Francisco, and Washington, D.C. Part of me thinks they have to offer remote work because they can't get people to come to the office. I mean, I certainly, not that I would take any job, let's be frank, unemployable at this point. But I can tell you I would not go to San Francisco. Even if I got paid more money, I wouldn't go to San Francisco. So maybe San Francisco, Chicago, and D.C. have to offer remote work because nobody wants to go there. Nobody wants to work there. I don't know. What do you think? Leave comments below. Again, folks, we do 7 days of daily financial news. I record Friday and Saturday after the fact, so we can get the 2 days of rest. But yes, like, subscribe, comment, become part of One Rental at a Time. Thank you so much.